Hello and welcome. In this short video I want to give a brief overview of my LMBF Trade Planner and LMBF Trade Executor utilities that I've developed for Metatrader 4 platform. Now these two utilities work very closely together and they can be used to very carefully control your risk when placing trades and allow you to become much more efficient at understanding how many R's you're going to get for each trade and being much more disciplined around placing trades in general. Now the main difference between the two utilities is the LMBF Trade Planner is the main tool where you can draw trades on your chart, change how much risk you want to of your account you want to use for each trade, and see how many R's you're going to get. The Trade Executor is really a slave to this Trade Planner, and its main job is simply to place trades or modify trades depending on what you do within the Trade Planner. If you don't have the Trade Executor in place attached to your chart, that's fine. It just means you won't be able to actually create trades from what you've drawn on the chart. To start off with, I'm just going to drag the LMBF Trade Planner onto my chart. I'm just going to accept the default parameters for the time being, and I will come back to those either later or in a separate video. So now we have the Trade Planner actually attached to our chart. We can activate it by pressing the Control Shift buttons together and clicking a location on the chart. So I'm just going to click maybe just below this supply zone here, and you'll see it instantly displays a stop zone and a profit zone on your chart in obviously red and green. First thing I want to do is just give you an idea of what the different numbers that you see around the two red and green areas are. I'll just bring that down like that so you can get a bit more. At the top we have H1 is the time frame on which you've actually planned this trade. You then see a live version of what the current spread is for this instrument. In this case it's the Aussie CAD. 7.7 or 7.4 lots is the proposed lot size you will use based on your current account size and your risk that you have based on the red shading here. This will vary slightly just as the spread varies slightly. The risk 3%, that's how much of your own account you want to risk on this trade. And then further down at the bottom, 1.8R is the max profit you can achieve if your trade hits the bottom of this green shading. On the left, you have the size of the stop loss in pips, 18 pips in this instance, and the size of the profit in pips, 33 pips. And then you also have the values that you would enter such a trade in to get this exact risk reward and pips and gained and lost, as well as the entry and the take profit. So if you just hold your mouse over these, then it does also show them on the tooltip, just to make it a little bit easier to read if there's too many candles. So the last thing I want to show you is at the bottom. It says max risk reward or RR, entering now 0.84 Rs. So all this is saying is that if you entered at the current price using your stop loss that you have placed at the moment, or your extreme stop loss at the top in this case, then the maximum R's you're going to get is 0.82 if price then comes down to hit the bottom of your green rectangle. Now one thing you will notice is that it automatically created a sell trade for you with the stop loss up top and the take profit at the bottom. Now it deduces which way to go, whether it's a sell or a buy, based on where you click your mouse in relation to the current closing price. So in this instance I clicked above the closing price, so it assumed a sell trade. If I clicked below the current price, then it will assume a buy trade. And I can just demonstrate that. If I close that trade off and I'll click just below the current price, and you'll see that in this case the stop loss is at the bottom and take profit is at the top. Because it makes sense, I'm just going to go back to where I was before, and you can see I'm using this X at the top just to close the trade off, and I will put it back to how it was before. And the great thing about this tool is that you can actually drag the stop loss and take profits on your chart just to change how you want to plan the trade, and all the parameters will update automatically. This includes the size of your stop loss in pips and take profit in pips, the number of R's you'll get based on your stop loss and your profit areas, as well as the lot size you should use based on your risk that you are prepared to take. And that risk is shown as a percentage of your current account balance, shown at the top right corner of your trade. So just to demonstrate, I'm going to move my stop up to above here, and I will move my entry to, let's say, just below there. And on this I can have 2.2 R's. I should enter 4 lots based on risk of 3%. Just move it out of the way so you can see the risk factor better. And this is like 35 pips loss to 79 pips win. And these are the values you'd enter for your stop loss entry and take profit to actually achieve these trades. Now all of these values take into account the current spread in its calculations, so there's no getting an actual lower risk reward than you actually expect. Just a couple of extra things that I want to show you before I move on. Firstly, as I'm pointed out, the X at the top simply removes this from your chart. P is used when you have the trade executor attached as well, and this will convert the trade into a pending order using the stop loss entry and take profit you've drawn there. M does the same thing, but converting it directly to a market order at the current market price, and it will actually extend your stop loss by moving your entry down to the current price whilst leaving the stop loss and your take profit at the same value. And this is where this value comes into. It says you would actually get 0.27R if you were to enter at this value now, because clearly your stop would be very large and your take profit would be very small. Now I'm just going to reduce the size of this so that it's easier to see on the screen, and maybe go back to the original trade that I actually entered or something along those lines. Something like that. Now this actually created a sell order when I placed it on the chart. Occasionally you might just want to flip this around to be a buy order. So all you need to do that is just grab the corner, bring it above your stop, and it flips around, and it keeps the entry level at the same value, and then gives your same risk reward ratio based on what you had before doing so. Now you can actually do this with hotkeys as well, and I will come into this when I talk about the parameters when you first add the indicator to your chart. I'm just going to remove that from my charts now, and then we will talk about how the trade executor or executor actually helps you to place and manage your trades in a live environment. So I'm just going to grab the EA and grab it onto my chart. There are no parameters to this one. It is purely, like I said, a slave to the main indicator. Okay, and you see, or should see, a happy smiling face at the top here. So this is a demo account obviously, so I'm just going to create a trade like I did before by activating the indicator, and it will draw, say, from this supply area here down to, say, the low of this where price keeps going to, and I might want to enter a pending order as price comes back towards my proposed entry level. So now I have trade executor on this. All I need to do is click on the P, and it asks me open new sell limit. I say yes, it places the trade for me, and it uses the 7.64 lots in this case that has been calculated based on my risk percentage and my placement of my stop and take profit. If I want to get rid of that trade again, I can just click on the X, close order. It says, do I want to close it? Yes, and the trade's gone. So one thing worth noting at this stage is 3% might be a little bit too much for some people, and 1 might be too little for others. So if you click on 3%, you can actually revolve through by 0.5% increments up to 5%, and then it goes back down to 1. So you can actually reduce the risk or increase the risk just by clicking on this. And you'll see that the risk size changes as you change it. So the lot size changes as you increase the risk, lots go up. it goes back to 1, goes back to 2.53. The other thing worth noting is that if you click on the risk reward, you can get this trade. It will actually move your entry for different values. So if I click on it once, it takes it up to 2. As I keep on increasing it by half R increments, it moves my entry closer and closer to my stop. So this is telling me that if I want to achieve a 3R on this trade, thinking that this is the maximum it's going to go up and this is where I expect it to go down to, then this is where I need to enter. And then I can just go and place a trade at that level, knowing that I've got a 3R trade planned. Now it might be that I want to increase my stop a little bit, hopefully part of the planning rather than just because you think price is going to hit it. So it's easy enough to drag your stop as well as your take profit to increase it, and there. Now one thing you need to be aware of when you're changing stops and entries and take profit for pending orders is that it will actually close the existing pending order and open a new one and use the same risk. So adjust your lot size so you're not actually risking any more of your account or any less of your account, and you're getting the same R's. So if you notice here, 1.35 lots. If I just move my entry closer to my stop loss, so I should be able to use a bigger lot size, and say it's 2.67 now, and this reflects in the actual trade or pending limit order that it's actually created. So I'm now going to delete that pending order and create a market order. So like I said, this is used if you want to go straight in the market, and if I bring the entry down there, oh no, I clicked on it by mistake, the M is used to enter a market order. So in this case, just lower my stop there. Supposing I believe that it's not already going to come back to this entry level and I might just want to enter a market to take it down to this value. Then if I just click on, well, firstly you can see that I'm on a 2R trade at the moment if it enters there. If I click on M, then it will actually try and move my stop down to here, adjust my position size accordingly for the new risk reward, and enter a trade straight into the market. So I'll just do that now. So as I click the P, before I do that, just notice that the current lot size is 3.01 lots. And as we change this to market order, your entry level is going to come to the current market price, which means obviously your risk is much greater. Therefore, we should see a significant decrease in the lot size. If I just go ahead, click that now, open new market sell, yes. Market position, and now we're at 1.72 lots. You can see that this is reflected in the actual order that's being created. Now once you have your market order running, you can easily change your stops and your entry position just by dragging them on the chart. So for example, if I want to make a bigger stop, I could just drag that up to say above there, and it changes automatically. In this case, your lot size won't change because it's already in the market and it's not possible. So without actually closing the trade and then reopening another market order. So this case doesn't change your position size, it just replaces your stop loss, or in this case, your take profit. Now it's worth noting I have had this trade running for a candle or so, and you can see that there is just about appearing a little bit of a shading which shows how far in profit or loss you actually are at the moment. This will start from the candle where the trade was actually entered. A better way of seeing this is to do it on the 1 minute chart. Not recommended for normal trading, but good for demonstration purposes. So I'll just close this trade off now and close off the market sell, the small loss. And now change to, actually I'll remove that from the chart and then go to the 1 minute chart. Okay, so just click into the 1 minute chart. I'm just going to squash this up a little bit because otherwise it runs into problems with stops being too close to entries and so on. Okay, now I'm just going to activate my trade by using the hotkeys. I'm just going to bring my stop up to there and my down there. So I've got a 5 pip stop loss at the moment, and I've got a 8 pip profit, and this is giving us a 1.4 R. So not too bad. Okay, so I'm just going to enter the market at the moment. So yes, and straight away it's obviously a fairly large lot size because we're only on the 1 minute chart. So although the stop loss looks big here, it's actually tiny. And here you can see how the amount you're in loss, or if it goes positive, is actually shown on the chart from the point at where you entered. So that's good, just for giving a little bit of a indication of how your trade is doing. I'll just let that run for a moment. While this is happening, you can also see that how many R's you've achieved at the current time is shown on the right and is moving accordingly, and on the left is what your profit is in pips at the moment. So at the moment we're slightly above the entry price, which is 0.94638, 2 pips above, which means we're negative 0.16 or so R. I'm just hoping that this might come down into profit in a minute, and we'll keep an eye on that for a second. Okay, it's not going to happen at the moment. It's just hovering around doing nothing whatsoever. So I will just cancel that trade for the time being, and maybe try and find another one which is actually going to move a little bit faster. Oh, it's coming down. Now you will notice that if you enter a trade, as soon as you enter it, you're automatically in loss, and that's because of the spread. So what I'll do actually is I'll just close that trade off, and then I'm going to move swap it around. I think I doubt it will go straight the other way, but just hoping to get a bit of a thing. That's because I clicked the button by mistake. And I'm going to enter a market buy now. You'll see as soon as you do it, you're automatically in a small loss, and that's just because of the spread. And this particularly shows up when you're on a 1 minute chart very clearly. Okay, give it another little moment. A little bit more upward momentum present, so hopefully it will move up sooner rather than later. What I'm going to do while we're waiting is just grab the corner and move my stop up. So the other thing that might happen is it might take me out, and you'll see what happens when I get taken out of a trade. This won't be the most interesting part of the video to watch, especially on something moving as slowly as this. Okay, I'm just going to pause it for a moment and hopefully I'll come back in a second. Okay, so this is a few minutes later, and what's actually happened is that price has come down and just touched my stop loss. And what you can see is that although the trade is still there on my chart, but it's actually reverted back to just a virtual trade now, and you can actually replace it or do whatever you want to it, change it around again. So the trade's been closed, but it still stays there on the chart. Hopefully I can try and find one which will actually get into profit, but essentially it means that you get a slightly different shade of green, just as you had a slightly different shade of red. So just at the moment I've just found this other trade where it's just verging around the break even. You can see there's a bit of purple where the red's gone into the green, and this is where we're below our bid price, but we're still in a slight loss because of the spread. So that's why it shows in the purple. And if we come back into the green, I'll give you a demonstration of that as well. So here we have the same trade a little bit later, and now it's just gone past the break-even point. We're showing 0.04R at the moment, therefore it's gone to the green colour. Oh, it just broke above the break-even there, so it went purple again. So that just gives you an indication of like how this is working. So we're negative now because we're actually very below the bid. The spread is still causing us a little bit of loss. So hopefully that's giving you an idea of what happens as it moves above and below the break-even point. So I'm hoping I've given a fairly good overview of what this tool is capable of. I just quickly want to run through the parameters that I have on the indicator. So I'll remove this from my chart and then go to my indicator list and open up the trade planner. So just starting from the top, we have the account balance that it uses for lot size calculation. If we leave it at 0, then that would use your account balance as per shown here on my trading terminal. If you change it, then it will use that instead, which might be useful if you don't want to use your entire account balance, or you only want to change the balance used at the end of each month. Moving down, we have ignore trades when active in the market. Now I normally leave this at false. The reason you might want to change it is if you are a person who likes to add positions or build positions as time goes on, rather than waiting until one position closes and then opening another position. What this does is once your position changes to a live trade in the market, a pending order may have been triggered, for example, then you are able to create a new trade using this tool. If this is left as false, then you're only allowed to do one trade per time frame for each symbol. So that's the limitation there. Okay, next line down, ignore trades not created by this tool. This simply means that if there are trades which have been created either manually or by another EA, then this will completely ignore them in your terminal, and this is set to true. If you set this at false, it will actually pick up trades created manually and try and apply them to a particular time frame, or even trades created by another EA that are in your terminal window. Underneath we have the hotkeys. So hotkey for activation, as I've shown, is normally Control Shift and then click on the chart. You can actually change this to be anything else you want. So let's say we're going to call it T and then click on the chart. If we say OK on there, close that, and this time I used T and click to place it on the chart. Okay, let's bring back to the parameters list. A few other hotkeys below. So if you want to create a pending order where we click on the P, you can just press the P on the keyboard instead. Likewise, instead of clicking on the M on the chart, you can just use the M on the keyboard. If you want to close the delete order on the chart, you click on the X button, whereas you can just use the X key. And if you want to reverse a virtual order on the chart, you just drag the stop or the take profit to the other side, the far extreme. If you do the R key on the keyboard, that does exactly the same thing. Last two, text color override. At the moment, the tool is smart enough that if it is on a white background, then it will use midnight blue as its color. If you change to a black background, it will use lime green. This just allows you to specifically choose a text color that it will use, which might suit something different. And lastly, font size override. That's set at 8. If you want to increase it or decrease it, you can do that using this parameter. So just while we're on the subject of hotkeys, you'll remember that when we opened a market order, a pending order, it gave us an alert first or an option to cancel. Sometimes you may want to get in the market very quickly. So what I've done is, say for example, we use the M key to create a market order normally. If you actually hold the Shift key where you press the M key, it will just do it automatically without giving you any prompts. And there you go. So the same applies for pending orders and for closing orders. So if I just hold a Shift and press the X, it closes that order straight away. So that's just a shortcut if you want to open and close orders without actually having a little check first to make sure you really do want to do that. So that concludes this demonstration of the LMBF Trade Planner and Trade Executor tools. I hope that's been informative. The best thing is just to play around with it. I will be putting this on the Metatrader 5 or MQL5 I should say marketplace, or I will be making it available at the link below. If you're interested in getting a demo, you can download that from the marketplace, or if you want more information, then you can contact me at Graham GRAEME @letmebefree.com. Thank you very much for your attention.